You still got some energy left? Tonight is not over. You know that. Tonight is not over, right? Well, for those of you who are leaving, we're not going to an intermission quite yet. You can have a seat. We'll be going to intermission in a few minutes. I actually have the privilege of hanging out with you guys for a few more minutes and telling a bit more of my story. All right? So I told you guys that I come from a long, far, far away from here. I call it the largest state in the United States, the place called Canada. But I want to show you the place that I live, okay? I have a picture here. This is a real photo of where I grew up, all right? And that is Canada in the summertime. You should come, it's amazing. But I grew up in a pastor's home, I told you that, in a very small town. And I knew at one point that my faith journey was going to be a lot different. The people that I saw coming in and out of the doors of our church. We saw a lot of people come in and have this like dark to light experience. Like Ben Fuller, you heard his story a little while ago, right? Amazing story. And I realized at one point that that's not really going to be my story. I woke up one day and I had this revelation. And the revelation was this: man, I know a lot about God, but I don't know God. Thank you. And I'm on my way. The thing is that somebody told me the longest journey a Christian takes is about 13 inches. It's the journey from here into here. Right? It's taking all that stuff that we learn in Sunday school, Bible camp, and it's taking all those things that we know and letting them trickle down to the place of the heart. And that was my journey, and that's still the journey that I'm on. Anybody else on that journey here tonight? Just because you don't have a hard story doesn't mean you don't have a testimony. You're on a journey. And the journey is to know God. So at about this time, I felt convicted, and I was like, man, I don't know God, but I really want to get to know God. And for me, the path was actually through music. I would like lock myself in my room and I'd listen to worship music, and something happened in my life. My life started changing, and my priorities started changing, and God got into my life. And maybe that's why I still sing today. So his life was changed through music. And then it started even going deeper, and I started wrestling with the Bible, wrestling with the words in the Bible. And I remember reading scriptures like, love your neighbor, love your enemy. Man, how do I do that? Scripture verses that say, like, feed the poor. Tell this mountain to fall into the sea and it will move. And I'm reading all these scriptures and I'm saying, like, I don't think I'm a very professional Christian here. No mountains have been moving lately. And I wrestled with these verses because I didn't know what to do with them. And I remember one day sitting down with a friend at a coffee shop in Canada and just telling him, man, I want to do all these things for God. I want to do something, but I don't really know how to start. But I've got this big list. And he looked at me and he said, well, why don't you start with what is in your hand today? And I couldn't argue with him. I remember going home that evening to my wife. We'd just recently been married and we didn't have a lot. And we decided to do something. We decided to take a step in the right direction. We decided to do something small. And for us, it was sponsoring a child through an organization called Compassion. Maybe you guys have heard of Compassion. Anybody? They're incredible. And honestly, this decision that we were about to make actually had the greatest effect on my faith journey than any decision I had previously made. I had no idea in the moment, though. We made this tiny little choice. We didn't think about it. We didn't feel any fuzzies. We just did it. We moved along, and we went on with our day. And then about a month later, I got this call, and it was someone from Compassion. They said, hey, we noticed you sponsored a child. His name's Wander. He's 7 years old, from the Dominican Republic. We're actually going on a missions trip that we're going. We want to know if you and your wife want to come. And the first thing that came to my head was like, I don't want to go on another missions trip. Because I used to go on these missions trips as a teenager, and every time I'd go, I'd see the mountain. I'd see the mountain of poverty. And it felt like it was winning, and it felt like I didn't have enough to throw at it. And I was discouraged. But this time, we decided to act out of faith instead of fear. We hopped on that plane, We flew to the Dominican Republic. We landed in the city of Santo Domingo. They picked us up in cars and they drove us through the city, and then we walked, and then more cars, and we walked, and we found ourselves, which I later found out after the trip was over, in one of the most dangerous neighborhoods on the planet. And I was like, thanks, Compassion. You really got a lot of faith. And we were walking through these streets, and you could feel the heaviness. It was quiet, not the right kind of quiet. And we knew that that neighborhood was overtaken by a lot of gang activity, drugs. It was a dangerous place to be. And you could feel just walking through it, the heaviness. And I'll never forget, though, towards the end of this walk, we stopped in front of this little tiny church. And from outside of this church, it was about 100 feet outside of this church, we heard singing. And there was about 150 kids, and they're singing about Jesus in one of the darkest places on earth. And I remember looking at that church, and for the first time I had this idea, I think that's what the Bible means about a city shining on a hill, of a light in the darkness. And guys, sometimes I think we get it backwards here in the West. We keep the light in the light. But the light is meant for the darkness. We know that, right? The light is meant for the darkness, and this was one of the darkest places on earth being reached, the light of Jesus. We walked inside that church, and we got to meet these kids, and we got to hang out with them, and we ate with them, we laughed with them, we cried with them. And then, I didn't know, but Wander was there that day, and they surprised us. I was singing, and I was on a stage. The church was smaller than this, obviously, but there was people out there, and they surprised us, and they said, here's Wander, and he came busting through the back doors, and he came running straight up to the front, and he jumped in our arms, and he just held on tight. Yeah, I think we have a picture of that moment. And nobody prepped us for this moment. We'd never met Wander before, and every time I look at that picture, I just think, who cut the back of my hair? And then I realized it was me. I cut the back of my hair, and it was the last time I ever did that. But nobody coached us on what would happen, and so we kind of awkwardly were in this moment with this little boy, and it was incredible, and he was hugging us, and then something happened that I didn't expect, is he just didn't let go. And he held on for about 5 minutes, and we laughed, and then the laughter turned to tears, and we just had this moment where we realized this thing that we thought was so small in that moment, that we had no feeling around, for this little boy was everything. And we realized we were dealing in a different currency we were used to. We were dealing in the currency of hope. I knew something was different that day in Wander. And I knew something was changing in us. We got to go a few minutes later and see the place that Wander lived. And we got to meet Wander's parents, his mom and his dad, and we asked them questions, and we just, hey, what is it like to live here? What do you do? What's work? This and that. And I remember them explaining to us that they both each worked 10 hours per day, 8 to 10 hours per day, 6 to 7 days a week, and they both make $1 per day, $1 US per day equivalent. And I remember just sitting there, and my heart was breaking, and I was just thinking, okay, I'm in. I get it. What else can I do? And my mind is going, and as I'm thinking all this, Wander's dad is holding out his hand, and he says through a translator, he said, Dan, we have a gift for you. And he was holding out 2 bracelets that he bought the day before. He said, we want you to take our gift. And all I can remember looking at him holding these bracelets is, how do I tell him no? I can't take this gift from him. I said, don't worry about us, we're fine. Like, we have gifts for you. We've got games and we've got toys. Like, this is your time. Don't worry about us. You know, we're not concerned about us. And he looked at me and he said something I'll never forget. He said, Dan, you have to take this gift because what you've done by sponsoring our son, this is the biggest thing that's ever happened to our family. The biggest thing. I don't know if I'd clap for me just yet. Because I wasn't really the guy that believed any of this would work. But in that moment, it's like the mountain started to dissolve in me. I felt like God was whispering into my heart and just saying, Dan, I never asked you to move that mountain. That's my job. All I ever asked you for was a mustard seed. All I ever asked you for was the little that was in your hand. I moved the mountain.
That's good, man.
And guys, the mustard seed is always the thing that we look at today and we say, oof, it's pretty small. I don't know if that's going to work. It's always the thing that we look at and say, man, God's going to use someone else. There's just not enough faith in my life. There's just not enough money in my bank. There's just not enough whatever, fill in the blank. And I'm not just talking about child sponsorship right now. Each and every single one of us in this room carries the mustard seed of faith every single day. And it's never going to feel like enough. But it is the only thing that we can give. And mountains move. I want to show you guys a short video. And I love this video. I saw this a year or so ago. And it struck me because you get to see a little girl who was sponsored about the same age our sponsored child was, Wander. And you get to see her now. She's all grown up. And she gets to tell you the effect that it had on her life. Let's check it out.
My name is Nora Birangi. I'm from Uganda.
We are Jeff and Bonnie Mowry. Nora was 10, I was 20 years old, and we sponsored her all the way completely through her program.
They used to write to me letters like almost every month. They always told me that they loved me, I was so special, and I was gonna make it. 3 things never missed their letters.
We did something so little. We felt like it was just so little. Jeff and I started realizing as we're looking at the small portion that we did and not looking at the magnification that God did. And that is through all of the Compassion team.
At the Compassion Project, I always looked forward to going there because there was always good food. We could have chicken, eggs, milk, rice.
So the monthly sponsorship empowers the Compassion team to provide the food, the medical care, the education care, but also the spiritual care with the programs that bring these kids in and teach them about Jesus.
The praise and worship there was just the best time for me. We used to dance and, and all the time I could go back home and still do the same things with my mom and my other siblings.
To think that you're just changing a child's life is too small of an understanding of what's going on. It's not just changing a child, it's changing the family, it's changing the community, it's changing the culture.
The degree to which God multiplies everything that's given through all the people in Compassion is phenomenal.
When we were told we had the chance to meet Nora, I was almost speechless. It was just like, how could we not? Of course we want to meet her.
I would like to say thank you so much to my sponsor, Jeff and Bonnie Mowry. I hope I see you one day. I love you so much, wherever you are.
How about today?
No.
Yes. We see as so little, Nora sees the end result of it. To realize that you have even your small role to play, because that small role doesn't stop with you. It continues on, and it lights a candle that lights another candle that lights another candle, and it becomes exponential. And that's in the hands of our God.
Yes. Amazing. Guys, thanks for watching that. We're going to do two things, and this is a unique night for me. In a moment, I'm going to give you an update on Wander, because he's not 8 years old anymore. But also, I get to do something very special. I'll never get to do this again, ever in my life. Because 10 years ago, when this story happened, it was about the time that my wife and our son moved to the States, and all of this, and the reason I'm standing before you today. My father actually moved to Ecuador and became a full-time missionary, and not even connected through me. He ended up building a church. He's a carpenter, and they started a compassion project there in Ecuador. And I get to speak about compassion sometimes, but I wasn't even connected to this. And they feed around 200 kids every day, and they tell them about Jesus, and I asked them about the work of it. It's incredible. And this is very cool. They had an opening for 30 more kids to join their program. And I asked Compassion, they asked me if I'd speak tonight. I said, if I speak tonight, would I be able to bring these 30 kids here tonight and give people an opportunity to sponsor these kids? So it's a very, very special night for me. Thank you. And tonight you are going to have an opportunity to sponsor a child, and it would mean the world to me if you are feeling moved to do something, that you would take a step tonight and you can sponsor a child from this project. It would be absolutely amazing. I'd love to see all 30 get sponsored. It'd be incredible if I could call my dad and let him know that. So what we're going to do is we have some volunteers here with Compassion, and you can see them because they've got these little blue bibs on. I call them the Compassion Ninjas. Let's give them a hand as they come up. And their job is to just get these packs into your hands. I know it's a little awkward, but it's the easiest way to do it. So as they're walking around, if you want to see one, just put your hand up and they will get it to you. Even if you're in the middle, wherever you are, they're going to get one to you. And as they do, I'm just going to explain a few things about what happens when you sponsor a child. Sponsoring a child, it's $41 a month. It's not a contract. A lot of people have the fear of just even jumping in. I know I did, and I just tell people, hey, make that first step and just see what happens. So what happens is, number one, physical. They get food, clean drinking water, access to medical care. The second is education. They have somebody that helps them every day with their schoolwork, encourages them to graduate. And these kids are graduating and breaking the cycle of poverty. The third is on the emotional level, and this is where you come in. They save every letter. You get to write them letters. They write you letters back. They save every letter, and when they find out somebody in Arizona took a minute and thinks that they matter, something changes in their life, and we've been able to see this. The fourth thing is on the spiritual side. Every child that's sponsored, they let them know where it's coming from, and they let them know about Jesus. They don't force them to accept Jesus, but they give them the opportunity to live a life for Jesus. Last year alone, 150,000 children worldwide through compassion programs gave their life to Jesus for the first time. Amazing, right? What I want to do, before we go to intermission, I want to give you an update on Wander. Wander's not 8 years old anymore. Wander's 18 years old, and we just got a picture yesterday in the mail. That's Wander today. And I got a message from Wander's mom. They were able to move out of that neighborhood a few years ago. Wander graduated high school. Wander is in university right now to be a chef. And Wander will break the cycle of poverty in his family forever. Isn't that amazing? That's a mountain moving. It works, guys. A mountain is moved one pebble at a time. So we want to give you guys an opportunity to sponsor. These guys are walking around. We'd love to see all these disappear. Also, if you're interested in other areas, we have packs at the back. There's also packs under every other seat in this place. So if you're curious to see that, you can pick one of those up. You can look. You can see that these people have a name. You can see where they're from, a little bit about their life, and we're going to pray for them in a minute. There's two ways to sponsor. The first way is if you have that pack, you can scan the QR code, and then it instantly takes you to a page. You can use Apple Pay, other things, and within minutes, you can sponsor a child. If you're super old school, we have these things here called pens and pencils, and you can fill that out at the table. Maybe you're looking for a specific place that you're like, I really want to visit this area one day. Do you have a child from this area? we can do our best to help you. My encouragement to you guys is don't let this moment pass. There's so many times that we let the moment pass and we just think, someone else, another time, the seed is too small. If you feel that tug in your heart tonight, take that step of faith. Faith means taking a step without a guarantee. It should always scare us just a little bit. We're going to pray. God, we thank you so much for this night and our opportunity to worship with music and with our actions. Thank you for this specific opportunity tonight, these children that are with us from all over the world, and specifically Ecuador. We know that you have a plan for them. They have a real life, real hopes, real dreams, real struggles, just like us. And I pray that you take the little we bring tonight and you do much. In your name, amen. Guys, thank you so much for listening to me once again. We're going to take about 10 minutes. And if you need to use the bathrooms or anything, it's back there, the compassion tables, and we'll be back with Micah Tyler. Thank you, guys.